I beseech thee. My little daughter lieth at the point of death. I pray thee, come and lay thy hands on her. She may be healed. She shall live.
Take me to your home. Who touched my clothes?
Thou seest the multitude thronging thee, and sayest thou who touched me?
Master, I have suffered an issue of blood for 12 years. And I knew if I could just touch thy clothes, that I would be whole.
Daughter, thy faith hath made thee whole. Go in peace, and be whole of thy plague. Why make ye this ado and weep? She is not dead, but sleepeth. Leave this house. Talitha Kumai, arise. Tell no man what was done in this house this day. Let her be given something to eat.
I've had quite a few interesting conversations with people over the last few months about whether they've been missing church. And although many have, a surprising number of people say they haven't really missed it, or haven't missed it as much as they thought. Or if they have, then they've missed it for particular reasons, and reasons that sometimes surprised them. One of the things people I've spoken about missing most is the sense of community, of seeing people and knowing how they're doing, and they express their sadness and their disappointment when something has happened and they haven't heard about it until quite some time later. For me, that's one of our priorities. As these restrictions around COVID continue to be relaxed and we move towards greater freedom, the priority isn't to get more bums on seats, to get more people back into churches. It's not to start everyone singing again, or take up collections, or reintroduce the Sunday obligation. In fact, I don't think I will reintroduce collections on Sundays. I've never really liked them anyway. And I pray that the bishops don't reintroduce a Sunday obligation. I don't think that's a good idea at all. No, I think my priority is to help re-establish that sense of belonging to each other, that community, that body in which we can express our care for each other. Whether people go to church on a Sunday morning or not, it's that community, it's giving people back to each other that I think should be our first priority. It's something that Jesus does often in the Gospels, and often he does it with a simple touch, or maybe not quite such a simple touch. In the Gospels, we see Jesus heal all sorts of people, lepers, the deaf, the blind. He raises people from the dead. He even calms the storm, all with a simple word. He doesn't need to touch people to heal them. So why does he? Why does Jesus reach out and touch people, particularly those who his society says he shouldn't touch? Why does Jesus allow people to touch him? Touch is important. Touch is significant. That's why pretty much every society has regulations about who can touch whom and how people can be touched. I mean, in Jesus' day, there were all sorts of things that were prohibited. Touching certain people and certain things made you ritually unclean. You were unable to take your place within the community because you'd been in contact with something that was excluded from that community. The woman in the Gospel with the hemorrhage, she was considered to be unclean, and coming into contact with her would make Jesus so. Similarly with the little girl who had died, being in contact with the dead would make you unclean. And yet, Jesus allows himself to be touched and reaches out and touches others. Why? When I was in the novitiate in Dublin, a long time ago, most of the novices in Dublin from different congregations all went to a monastery called Avila. We all came together to learn, to share our experience. Guest speakers were brought in to teach us things that someone somewhere thought it would be helpful for us to know. But above all, more than what was learnt, Avila was to be a safe space. It was to be a place, a community within which we could explore who we are and who we are in relationship with God, where we could take the risks in discovering who we really were. Most of the days followed a similar pattern. There would be some introductory speaker at the beginning of the day, usually one of the novice masters or mistresses responsible for the novices that were there. Sometimes guest speakers were brought in. They would provide some kind of input. And then we would break up into smaller groups, but always the same small group, always the same half dozen novices with a couple of directors present as well. Those groups were not only safe spaces, they were far more intimate spaces where we were more willing to reveal more of ourselves to others in an attempt to understand ourselves better. After which, we'd return to the big group, we'd have a chat, we'd discuss what had come up in the small groups without sharing everything, and then we'd end with a celebration of Mass or some other liturgy. Remember one day in the small group, one of the girls who was usually very good at being involved in the discussions was unusually quiet. And when one of the sisters, one of the novice mistresses, tried to encourage her to engage, that young woman became increasingly upset. People tried to find something to say to offer her comfort, but nothing seemed to work. In fact, the more that was said to her, the more upset she seemed to become. She was even getting quite angry at one point. Slowly, one by one, the people in that small group drifted away. Eventually, it was just me and her that was left. I had no words of comfort for her. So I just put a hand on her shoulder, and she buried her head in mine. And she sobbed. And we stood like that for quite some time. At one point, one of the nuns poked her head round the door and then quickly withdrew it. Sometimes a touch, a hand on a shoulder, a hand of friendship shaken, a hug. They can say more than we can express in words. Sometimes they just aren't words. Maybe there's something of that in Jesus allowing himself to be touched and touching others. Maybe he's saying something more than just your sins are forgiven or you are healed. Often it's through that touch and that healing that Jesus restores people to the community, takes away the reason that they have been excluded. But I wonder if the touch is about helping them feel welcomed in someone's company. But to do that, Jesus often had to break with convention, do what the law told him not to do. Maybe we need to do that as well. If we want to build up community, if we want to establish ourselves as a community of people among whom all are welcome, maybe we need to break with tradition, break convention and rules. Stop worrying about the things that we have been worried about, or at least some people have been worried about. Whether people go to Mass every Sunday or not, whether we see them in church or not, whether they contribute to the collection or not, they're not important. What's important is that people feel that they belong. that they have a place where they are safe, where they will find comfort, where they can take the risks to grow into the people that God created them to be. And we together can be the people that God created us to be.